Today, I will tell you about one of the deepest mysteries in the spiritual world. It is the rare state where enlightened beings leave the body with full awareness. If you feel curious, or if you are searching for something deeper, stay with me till the end. And if you want more videos like this, make sure you subscribe and like the video. Now let's begin the chapters. I have spent many years watching people live, and many years watching people die. And I've realized something simple, yet almost nobody talks about it. Most people fear death because they think it is a sudden ending. A full stop. A moment that erases everything they ever loved. But that fear comes from not knowing what death actually is. Not understanding what the inner world really does when the outer world goes quiet. In the oldest spiritual traditions, death was never seen as a tragedy. It was seen as a return, a shift in awareness, a gentle movement from one state of existence into another, like a flame changing shape but never disappearing. A realized being does not experience death the way we imagine. Their breath slows, not from struggle but from clarity. Their mind becomes still, not from weakness but from understanding. And in that stillness, the body stops feeling like a prison and becomes a doorway. This doorway has a name: Mahasamadhi, the conscious act of leaving the body with full awareness, full presence, and full peace. It is not about escaping life. It is about completing it. Before we go deeper, let me tell you something important. You don't need to be a monk or a saint to understand this. You just need to be human. You just need to have felt fear, felt loss, felt that quiet moment where you ask yourself, what happens to me when all of this ends? Today, you and I are going to walk into that mystery together. Not as believers, not as skeptics, but as human beings who want to understand life more deeply. I will speak gently. You can listen without fear. And as we go forward, you might discover that death was never the real question. The real question is how awake we are while we are still alive. When you live many years around awakened beings, you begin to notice something unusual about them. They don't fear death the way ordinary people do. Not because they are brave, but because they see life differently. Across India, Tibet, Japan, and Southeast Asia, there are rare stories of monks whose bodies remained untouched by decay long after their final breath. No chemicals were used. No special preservation rituals. Just stillness. Just awareness. Just a level of inner mastery that is hard for most of us to imagine. You see, long before their heart stopped, their mind had already risen above the physical world. They had spent years training their breath, their awareness, their thoughts, until the body became something they could wear lightly, like a robe. And when such a person leaves this world, they do not collapse. They simply step out. Imagine villagers walking into a cave or a small meditation hut after many years. They find a monk still seated upright, backbone straight, hands resting gently on the knees. No stiffness, no distortion, no fear frozen on the face. Only peace. The skin looks soft. The expression looks calm, almost alive. As if the monk had paused between breaths and never returned. Some villagers believed these monks were still meditating. Some believed they had turned into living protectors of the land. But every tradition saw the same message. The body had not died in the way we understand death. This is the first real hint that we are not just living inside the body. We are using the body. Like a traveler uses a room for a night's rest. And when the traveler is ready, they simply get up and walk out. When you hear stories like these, you start to question everything you were taught about life and death. And maybe that questioning is the beginning of awakening itself. People often ask me, what does a person have to do to reach Mahasamadhi? And every time I smile gently, because Mahasamadhi is not something you do. It's something you become. It is not a technique. It is not a ritual. It is not the result of intense suffering or forced discipline. It is the natural closing of a life that has been lived with complete awareness. A person who reaches this state has mastered the only world that truly matters, the inner one. They have walked through fear, looked beyond desire, broken through confusion, and found the quiet space where the mind finally bows to the soul. Such a being doesn't breathe by habit. They breathe by choice. Each breath is taken consciously, lovingly, as if they are aware of the entire universe with every inhale and exhale. And when the time comes for them to leave the body, they don't collapse. They don't struggle. They don't resist. They simply decide. Some tell their disciples in advance. Some choose a specific day, a specific hour. Some sit in meditation, close their eyes, and their awareness rises like a bird returning to the sky. The body stays behind, quiet and empty, like a lamp that has finished its purpose. This kind of mastery is rare, yes, but instead of making us feel small, it should remind us of what the human mind is capable of, what the heart is capable of, what you are capable of. Because awakening is not reserved for the few. It is a possibility for all of us, a shift in how we look at ourselves, our fears, our life. Mahasamadhi is not about death at all. It is the final expression of someone who has truly learned how to live. Over the years, I have met teachers who carried a quiet certainty about their life. Not confidence, not pride, just a deep understanding of when their work in this world was complete. Some of them spoke about their final moment long before it came. Not dramatically, not as a warning, just with a gentle clarity that felt almost comforting. One would say, "I am going home soon." Another would smile and say, "The body has served its purpose. I will not need it for much longer." These were not secrets. They were simple statements of truth from people who no longer feared endings. When the time arrived, these yogis didn't withdraw from their students. They gathered everyone close. They blessed them, reminded them to stay on the path, shared the last pieces of wisdom that had ripened in their heart. There was no rush, no panic, no sadness. And then, when everything had been given, they sat down, crossed their legs, closed their eyes, and let the breath settle. For an ordinary person, the final breath is a fall. For an awakened being, it is a choice. Their face would soften, almost glowing with peace. No lines of fear. No struggle. Only stillness. When doctors and scientists examined their bodies afterward, they were confused. The skin showed no signs of decay, even after several days. The posture remained firm, as if the yogi were still deep in meditation. There was no medical explanation for it, but anyone who had ever sat in their presence understood. It wasn't magic. It wasn't superstition. It was awareness, the kind of awareness that frees a person from the body long before the body stops breathing. These stories are not meant to make you feel distant from these yogis. They are meant to remind you that the human mind, when awakened, becomes capable of things we cannot imagine when we are afraid. And this is the quiet truth behind Mahasamadhi. The body ends, but the awareness that guided it never does. At this point, a natural question rises in the mind. If a yogi chooses the moment of leaving the body, is that not the same as ending one's own life? No. And the difference is far deeper than most people realize. A person who ends their life does so from a place of pain. Their inner world is filled with heaviness, confusion, and emotional exhaustion. They feel trapped by circumstances, overwhelmed by thoughts, disconnected from hope. Their action is not a choice born from clarity. It is a reaction born from despair. A realized being is the opposite. When an awakened person leaves the body, it is never because life became unbearable. They lived with joy. They lived with purpose. They lived fully, right until the final breath. They do not escape the world. They complete their journey in it. They choose to leave only when their work is finished, when every lesson has been given, every duty has been fulfilled, every moment has been lived with awareness. There is no sadness in their departure, only grace. Ancient traditions understood this so well that they never called Mahasamadhi an act of destruction. They called it a return, a conscious merging back into the source from which all life began. It is like watching a river meet the ocean. The river does not disappear. It becomes whole again. This is the heart of Mahasamadhi. It is not the ending of a life. It is the final expression of someone who has mastered it. When people hear these stories, they often think, "I could never reach that level." And the truth is, you don't have to. Mahasamadhi is not a goal for ordinary people. It is simply a reminder of what is possible when a life is lived with deep inner honesty. Because the real teaching here is not about death. It is about awareness. Awareness changes how you breathe. It changes how you think. It changes the way you walk through your own emotions. When you live with clarity, life stops feeling like a fight. When you understand where your fear comes from, it loses its power. When you stop running from your emotions and start listening to them, they soften. And when you finally take responsibility for your inner world, everything outside becomes easier to carry. Your life becomes lighter, more peaceful, more meaningful. These yogis did not master death. That was never their goal. They mastered themselves. They mastered their mind. They mastered the art of being present. And because they mastered life, death stopped being something to fear. It became soft for them, gentle, natural, just another doorway. If there is anything to take from their stories, it is this. You don't need to be a saint to live with awareness. You don't need to renounce the world to find inner peace. You only need to start paying attention to what's happening inside you. With honesty, with patience, and with love. This is the real gift these masters left behind. Not their ability to leave the body consciously, but their reminder that life becomes sacred the moment you begin to live it consciously. If you're still here, listening to these words, maybe your life has felt heavy lately. Maybe you've been carrying questions that no one around you understands. Maybe a part of you feels disconnected from the noise, the routine, the things that once made sense. If so, hear this gently. You are not broken. You are waking up. Every spiritual journey begins with discomfort. Old beliefs crack. Old identities loosen. Old truths stop holding you the way they used to. It feels confusing at first, but it is the mind's way of making space for something deeper. The stories of Mahasamadhi are not meant to lift you out of your life or pull you into some distant ideal. They are here to remind you of your own potential for inner clarity. Because the real teaching is not about leaving the body. It is about returning to yourself. To live with intention, to live with depth, to live with awareness instead of habit, to meet life with courage instead of fear. When your mind becomes calm, even for a moment, you will start to see things you never saw before. When your heart becomes steady, you will feel grounded in ways no achievement can give you. And when your soul begins to wake up, every ordinary moment will start to look like a doorway. A doorway into peace. A doorway into freedom. A doorway into a life that feels more honest and more alive. Thank you for walking through this journey with me. Take one long breath before you leave. Feel it. Let it settle inside you. You are already on your path, whether you realize it fully or not. And something in you is ready.